Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in to the show. As always, I got my guys with me, Darnell and Tyler. I'm Trey, and we're coming your way with the 102nd edition of the Don't Kill the Messengers podcast. First thing we're about to touch on for this week is some UFC. We had UFC 222 last Saturday. Just about to get right in and touch upon Ortega, man. This guy is an absolute monster. The first guy in UFC history to just knock out Frankie Edgar. That was just absolutely amazing. Edgar fought guys like Aldo, BJ Penn, Benson Henderson, just a bunch of talented guys in that division that he's fought in that lightweight division. And couldn't even knock him out, man. And this guy just came in. A lot of people didn't hit. I'd never heard of him. Just went in there, just delivered an explosive knockout to just get ready to fight Max Holloway. So, just what are your thoughts on that fight, man?
Well, I mean, it was shocking. When we talked about it last week, we both had Edgar winning a decision. I did point out that it wouldn't be an easy night for him. It was a game fighter that he was going against, but hey, a lot of eyes were opened by Brian Ortega. That's a big notch to have on your belt by not only beating Frankie Edgar, but being the only person to ever put him down. So, more props to him, and I look forward to seeing him against Holloway.
Yeah. Just wondering, man, people usually always, when it comes to fights, they have the whole camp. Particularly like for this one, Edgar was focused on Holloway pretty good majority of the time. And then with Holloway being injured, he had to pull out, and then Ortega came in. Now you have a guy like Ortega, coming in on short notice. They have the conditioning aspect that really, hurts a lot of fighters in that during that time. But you also have with the guy like Frankie Edgar, he's focused on a fighter like Holloway, and then with Ortega, he comes in, he's got to just transition and just focus on a different type of style of fight. And your just thoughts, man, like what do you think about that? Like usually with that, you think a guy like Edgar would have the advantage, or a person coming in like Ortega would? You think it'd be pretty balanced either way, or like, what's your thoughts?
No, I mean, it depends on if the short notice fighter is in shape, which it seemed like Ortega was. But if you're in shape, I feel like that fighter coming in on short notice has the advantage if they're similarly skilled to the person that they're fighting.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we could look at Ortega's last few fights. He beat some good people, and, he's been finishing all of his fights. They've all been by submission.
Yeah.
So that's why the knockout was surprising.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely think Ortega came in with an advantage just because, for the simple fact that Frankie had been doing all that training for Max Holloway's style, which is different than what Brian Ortega was. So this also, for some people that have turned down trying to take these short notice fights when they're high up in the rankings, this is a big reason why, because you got some hungry young and up and comer coming in your face. He has nothing to lose, because basically in the UFC's eyes, if Ortega would have lost, they're not going to dock him for that.
Yeah.
He took a short notice fight. If anything, you still get the props for stepping up and taking a short notice fight. But to come in and win that, now he's propelled himself into a title fight that was supposed to be Edgar's that night. So lesson learned to a lot of fighters: be cautious if you take those. It better be a fight that you can win if you accept it.
Yeah, because Holloway was he got at him on Twitter about it. He was like, man, I got injured. You should have pulled out too instead of taking that fight. The title shot was yours.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people always talk about, well, hey, this guy's conditioning conditioning could be off that's coming in to replace the fighter that's taken out. But you also have the guy that's been training for, the Max Holloways and such. And then just to hear that he's going to be replacing it and fight with somebody, you're going to be fighting a guy that's the complete opposite pretty much, or just fights completely different than the guy that you were training for so many weeks and months or whatever. That could definitely hurt you. So, yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just said, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Up next, we're going to talk about the championship fight between Cyborg versus Yana Kuzminskaya. Just what are your thoughts on that one, man? Cyborg went in there and pretty much just handled business as usual.
Yeah. I mean, that one, like I said, not very surprising. Cyborg just, overwhelmed her. There was the sloppy little takedown that she got on Cyborg when she was in some trouble. But, I mean, that's pretty much the most defense that Cyborg had to deal with.
Yeah,
getting taken down once. But, yeah, it's just I just think they're just going to have trouble finding somebody for her.
Yeah.
That can do something. But, yeah, Kuzminskaya, she was game. She didn't seem scared, but it was just like you could see she was just in over her head from the start of the fight.
Yeah, you pretty much just said it, man. Had that little takedown at first when I was I was kind of worried. I was like, okay.
Well, I do think that's something more talented fighters might see and be like, maybe that's a chink in the armor right there. That Cyborg's defensive wrestling is not there. So if you can get inside without taking those heavy shots at first and get her down, you might have something you can do.
Yeah. So, I was looking at that and then, was able to get up from him and then just drop those bombs and everything and get the win. So, this Cyborg way, man, with the punches. So, it was just a good win on her part. How it's been sounding, man. Dana seems like he's really pushing Nunes and Cyborg to fight each other next. Just thoughts on that.
I'm interested in that fight. Nunes, she seems to be the type that could step in and really show no fear. She hits like a truck herself, and she's very good at wrestling.
Yeah.
So seeing that, I think that could be an interesting fight, depending on, like, I want to see them next to each other to see what the size difference actually looks like with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think if there is a fighter that might be able to match up reasonably well with Cyborg, that's who it would be.
Yeah. I wonder what, because I think Cyborg, like, naturally walks at, like, 180, 175, 180. I wonder what Nunes, like, natural, what her natural walk around weight is.
Not that big.
Not that, yeah. True. Just to close this out, man, I was reading an article yesterday and saying that your boy GSP wants another fight. It seems as if the medication he's been taking for the illness he's had is working pretty well. He said he's, he hasn't had any symptoms or anything like that while he's been taking the medicine. So he's possibly open for another fight. Just what are your thoughts on that, man? You think he should just hang it up after beating Bisping? Because I feel as if there's really nothing else that he really needs to do, man. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I don't think he needs to have another fight, but if he's healthy and if he looks, I mean, he had a tough fight against Bisping.
Yeah,
he came out with a knockout. I think if he does come back, he probably needs to come back down and do a fight at welterweight where he's not trying to throw hands with bigger bodies like that.
Yeah.
But depending on the matchup, I could be intrigued by it, but I don't think it's necessary. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly agree with you, man. You basically just said everything I would say. Anything else for UFC before we go on, man?
No, I mean, surprising in the main event, but the co-main was Cyborg win as planned. So.
Yeah. All right, now we're about to touch on some NCAA basketball. So we're about to get into is the Big Ten tournament. How do you guys feel about that? Both y'all squads went against each other. Michigan was able to get the W. So just how are you guys feeling about your teams and just overall, how did you feel about the tournament?
It was a competitive conference tournament. I'm glad we don't have to play Michigan anymore outside of maybe in the big tourney, but hopefully we can avoid them since they just seem to have a recipe for us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what it exactly is that Michigan has against Michigan State because not many teams have it against them. I'm not going to say, it's a fluke. You beat them twice. I think Michigan, when you beat Michigan State 10 plus both times, I mean, it's definitely, not a fluke like Darnell said. You got something there, but, very competitive tournament. I think Darnell was spot on there. I mean, Michigan played the only 2 games that were decided by more than 10 points. That was the Michigan State and the Nebraska game. So, I mean, every team played tough, played well. Penn State, don't think they'll make the tournament, but had a really good showing, beat Ohio State again. Seems like they have their numbers. So Big Ten tournament was fun. Happy Michigan won it all. They would have been in the tournament anyway, but it's nice momentum going in. I just wonder how playing an early tournament's going to affect all the teams, not just Michigan.
Yeah. All right, guys. Up next, would just like to touch on the SEC tournament. Just what are your thoughts on the SEC conference tournament?
Interesting that Michael Potter's going to play. Michael Porter? Potter?
Yeah, Michael Porter.
Porter. Yeah, interesting that he's going to play. Only play not even a full game, and looks like he's going to be coming back. Should be interesting to keep an eye on. Missouri actually fared pretty well this year, so getting him back could be very interesting. I still think all eyes are on Kentucky. What are they going to do? I mean, I don't think the SEC has a lot of great storylines going into their conference tournament, but I think they have some solid teams. Tennessee, Kentucky should make the tournament. Like I said, Missouri is going to be an interesting watch, but I think just as a whole, the conference doesn't have a lot of buzz going right now.
Yeah, this is one that most people probably won't be checking out until late in the tournament. So probably day 3 or 4 where you get some of the matchups that could be interesting. I guess if Missouri gets past Georgia, like most think, I think that Kentucky-Missouri matchup could be nice. You can get Alabama or Auburn probably in the second round, or third round. So some interesting matchups, but the SEC just hasn't been a great power this year, so it's kind of just one where you probably will watch some of the rivalry games, maybe 1 or 2 of the interesting games, and the final to see what's going on with this one.
Yeah. What are the chances, because, before the season started, Kentucky was ranked pretty high, and they had just to have not lived up to those expectations this year. It's kind of just definitely downplayed compared to previous seasons. You guys pretty confident they could win this championship, the SEC tournament championship, or what?
I mean, I think they have just as good of a shot as any of the other top teams in that conference. Kentucky is always athletic. They're well coached. Where they get hurt is, they're inexperienced, always throwing out 4 or 5 freshmen. So should be interesting, but I'll give them just as good of a shot as anybody else in that conference.
All right, guys. Now we're about to touch on the ACC. Just thoughts on the ACC tournament.
Yeah, should be a good one. Always some heavyweight teams here. Duke, North Carolina. I think it would be fun if we can get another game of them in this tournament. But once again, not a lot of big storylines, just Duke and North Carolina.
Yeah, I can definitely agree there. This one started already as well. We have. I think this one just kind of comes down to the powers, as most would expect. Though I think this is UVA's to lose, but Duke is always going to be Duke. I want to see how they look against Notre Dame. I think that's who they have next on the slate, and then see if UNC can get back in there to do that rivalry one more time as well.
Who, both of you guys, you brought up Virginia, Darnell, but you feel the same way. Ty, you think this is Virginia's to lose?
Yeah, I mean, I think Virginia's the number one team in the country for a reason. Only lost one conference game all year, so they show they have a firm grip on the ACC. So is it theirs to lose? Yeah. But I think you get the triangle of Virginia, Duke, North Carolina. Any three of them, given night, one team gets hot, the other goes down.
All right, now to finish it off, we have the Big East tournament. What are you guys' thoughts and expectations for this
one? This one, I mean, I really think this is another one where it probably comes down to the top two seeds. I think we'll probably end up with Xavier and Villanova battling this one out. Creighton can maybe surprise some teams or some upsets or something like that, but I don't see this one going too crazy out of the norm.
Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just give me Villanova. Let's get to the tournament. It's just not an exciting conference anymore.
Yeah. All right. Okay, up next we are about to touch on a little bit of from March Madness tournament, since it's right around the corner. Guys, just looking at the team so far, who would you say your top for your 1 and 2 seeds? Who are your 4 teams for the 1 and 2 seeds for March Madness? If you had to pick,
you just mean the 4-1 seeds?
Yeah, the 4 ones. Yeah.
With me, I'm going with your top 3 ranked teams: Virginia, Villanova, and Xavier. I think both teams have done enough to earn theirs. For the 4th, I am just not sure. That I don't think anybody's truly just locked up a 1 seed. I don't think State's done it, even though we only lost 4 games just because the strength of schedule wasn't there. Duke had their rough stretch. I'm not fond of Gonzaga's schedule either. I guess I would probably go with maybe either Kansas or I guess just Kansas.
Let me ask you this, Darn. If Michigan State would have won the tournament, the Big Ten tournament, would they have been your? 4?
I think that would earn. Yeah, I think that would have earned 1 seed.
Okay. What about you, Ty?
Yeah, I would actually go. Obviously, Villanova. I think everybody has them. Xavier, as long as they play Villanova in the final, I don't see a problem there. And then Virginia, I think they're solidified number 1. But if Kansas wins the Big 12, I'll go Kansas as well. But if either Duke or North Carolina win the ACC tournament, I bet they slide up.
Okay.
Especially if one of them beats Virginia to do it.
Yeah. You can agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Anything else to add for NCAA basketball before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. All right, now we're about to go into some NBA. We're going to touch on the Pistons for a little bit. Me and Tyler, we kind of talked about them at the end of the show last week. But guys, what are your thoughts on this Piston team? They were looking pretty good when they first got Blake, and then just this typical Pistons team. They just look good, and then somehow they just start to crash a little bit, and they were starting to take some L's. So, just what are your thoughts on this team? You think there's just not really meshing, or you think something just wrong with the coaching, or what are your thoughts on it?
They're just a team. I can't put my finger on what's wrong with them. They have the talent to be better than 9th in the East right now, but just for some reason they can't put it all together. It looked like when Blake came, there was that new energy, but it seems like it's very similar to what happened with Cleveland. They made their big splash and basically changing their whole roster, and were looking good at first, and then they came down to earth and looked like Cleveland again. Not the Cleveland of last year, but what they looked like beforehand. Yeah. The Pistons seem a lot like that. They started with a spark when they got Blake, but people got used to playing them, I guess. I don't know. And now they're back to what they look like pre-Blake Griffin, just a non-playoff team.
Yeah. I'm still going to point the finger at Reggie Jackson. Not saying it's his fault. He's hurt, but look at all the top teams. You look at really good guard play. Pistons don't have really good guard play without Reggie Jackson, and even then it's just above average. I think what they're missing is the killer guard. I think if they were to have that, this team would be easily close to number 4, if not better, in the East. Well, it'd be tough to say that because they got Blake Griffin later in the year, but I still think they're a guard away.
Yeah, I can agree with that somewhat, Todd, man. When Reggie was with the Pistons, when he was healthy and playing, they were doing pretty good, man. And once he got hurt, man, they really started to take a dip. So I'm really anxious to see, man, once he gets back, what he'd be able to do with this team. The question, he should be back about later this month, is it?
There's actually reports saying he's not close.
He's not? Okay. Well, wow. So
I've seen that, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's done for the year.
Okay. Yeah.
They're just not going to say it in case they make it to the playoffs.
Yeah. Because I was about to say, yeah, it's it'll really help for him to come back, because he could really help them make that push to try to get that 7th or 8th spot. But how they're looking right now, man, I don't know if they could be able to get that. Are you guys pretty confident? How confident are you guys that they will make it to the playoffs? Still got a little time left, but not at all?
Not very confident, no. Okay. I'm not going to say not at all. You catch a quick 6-game win streak and you get Miami losing 4 of 6, and you're right there. So,
yeah.
But
I'm not saying
as of right now, what are the odds?
I'm just not at all confident in them.
Mm-hmm. I saw a stat before their game tonight. Like on the year, they only have 9 road wins, so like 9 and 20 something on the road.
9 and 22 on the road.
Terrible.
Wow.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's awful. What do you guys think if they don't make it to the playoffs? What do you think happens to SVG?
He has to at least lose his front office spot.
I bet nothing would happen, to be quite honest with you.
Do you think nothing?
Yeah, I think trading for Blake Griffin saved him for another year.
I'm not sure. They have to be able to be a playoff team at least.
Well, okay, where I'll agree with you on that, Darnell, is the fact that they were like a game or 2 out once they got Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you that. but I still think now it's going to, give us a full year with Blake Griffin, and we'll see what happens. So I think it bought him a little more time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Now we're just about to touch on the Houston Rockets. A lot of people are liking this team. I'll admit it. I am one of those guys. This team is just very fun to watch, man. Just James Harden is just having an absolutely phenomenal year. With what he's just doing on the court. I think he's my favorite to win the MVP. I think he's a lot of people's favorite to win the MVP. But they're in first place in the Western Conference. Do you guys think they can hold that number one spot, or do you think Golden State's going to take over and get it, or what?
I feel like in the end, probably Golden State has the edge to sneak back in and take it, but I wouldn't be shocked if Houston could hold on. They're definitely a better team than they were last year, and Harden's just playing on an otherworldly level right now, just as you said. But I guess I just still feel like Golden State's that better team when they want to be.
Okay.
I'll agree. I think Golden State is the better team, but I bet Houston holds on for the regular season. They're not going to get in rest mode, which I think will help them out. But I still think if you put them in a 7-game series, I'd give the edge to Golden State. Even though I really like Houston. We've all liked them for like, what, 2.5 years now?
Yeah.
I mean, we've really liked this team, and I think they're finally starting to reach that peak of potential.
Yeah. They just shocked me a lot this year, man. I just didn't really think CP3 and James Harden would be able to just coexist with one another on the court. I thought maybe if somehow CP3 would be able to be on a bench or something like that, and he could like spark some energy off the bench. But I did not expect those two to just play, be on the court with one at the same time, and just be able to just spark that team like they've just been doing. The Houston Rockets team is just phenomenal to watch, man. Just very entertaining. So I'm rooting for them, man. I like them. I'll say that. All right, guys. Anything else to add for the NBA?
Nope.
All right. Okay, now we're going to touch on some NFL. Talk about the Seattle Seahawks for a little bit. Before we get into the trade, there's possible talks with Richard Sherman being cut. Just what do you guys think about Sherman possibly being cut?
I mean, it's just another example of how the NFL is a business first for these teams. Richard Sherman, in most people's eyes, like is Seattle. As far as the Seahawks go, he's been, in my opinion, almost more of the face of the team than anybody, and that's going from any skill position player to quarterback to whatever. Richard Sherman is their vocal leader, and he's usually out front for the team. So it just shows. I mean, even if you get quite a backing for yourself, you can go at any time when he's coming off an injury. From what I heard, he's going to hit the cap space for $18 million if he was to stay on the team, and if they cut him, that's like a $16 million savings in cap space. So I can see why they would do it, but yeah, just shows this is a business first. There's not team side.
Yeah, I think it also shows the steady decline we've seen with Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this past year, I think, is some of the worst defense we've seen Seattle play in the last handful of years. But really, ever since they won the Super Bowl, they've kind of started to slowly go downhill. And I think it's getting to the point where people are getting frustrated. Decisions are being made. Like Darnell said, it's turning into a business, and it's less about winning football right now. It's about, just the business decisions that management thinks is best. I mean, it would suck. Sherman, you think Richard Sherman, you think Seattle Seahawks, but as Darnell likes to say, them's are the breaks.
Yeah. With Sherman, if he does get cut, where's a possible landing spot for him that you guys could see him going?
I'm actually gonna throw an interesting idea out there. I think Richard Sherman's a lot like Darrelle Revis, where you had, best cornerback in the league for year after year after year, and then he changes a team, something like that happens, he's not as good. I think Seattle's defense was a system.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that you can watch him match up constantly with the best receivers, because he wasn't always matching up with the best receiver.
Yeah,
and I think that's one thing that people, and I think that's one thing that people kind of overlooked. Like, Richard, they line up their best receiver on the other side of the field, so he can't be matched up with Richard Sherman. It's like, well, duh, he can't play the other side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they do it. And I think people aren't really realizing that. Like, he's good, but I don't think he's as good as everybody was screaming that he was.
Yeah, I think he lost the touch.
I don't know that it's necessarily losing the touch. I'm just saying I just think he's in a really good scheme.
Yeah. I mean, Richard Sherman is a very good corner. He's locked down some people and just made them not be able to function. But, yeah, he worked in how Seattle plays. He didn't have to trail the best receiver on the team for Seattle, because that especially in the big time Legion of Boom, when they were just elite like that, he did his job. I do think he's still a very good corner, but it does have to be the right type of system.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which system that is. I think he would have to go somewhere where there's at least a good secondary corner for him to deal with. I guess my thought process is like maybe going to a Minnesota, or maybe follow his buddy that we'll talk about in a little bit, I assume. Go to Philly. He needs to go to a defense that he's not going to be looked at as just being a world changer for him. He can definitely be that piece to make a good defense, a Super Bowl type defense. Maybe even somewhere like Denver that has a really good defense that's starting to get a little older, but to, put that little cherry on top, especially if they can fix their quarterback situation. Like if they get a Kirk Cousins, or if they hit on a draft pick to get a good quarterback, because, I mean, that's basically what Denver is a quarterback away from being back to being a Super Bowl type team.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt to add a Pro Bowl type cornerback too.
Yeah.
Yeah, another team there could be like Arizona, similar situation. They're quarterback away.
Him and Patrick Peterson on either side. Oh God.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. I mean, if they were to either get somebody in the draft or somehow land Kirk Cousins, they're looking at, being right back in the playoff picture. Granted, that NFC West is beefing up, but still, it would be an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Real fast, I would say Detroit, but they can't afford him.
Yeah.
Just real quick, another guy just like touch on just for Seattle is you have Russell Wilson with this whole issue with him in baseball. You had athletes before, some even play football and did baseball, kind of during the same time or whatever. But is there any you think Seattle should be worried at all that maybe he might just give up football completely and just pursue baseball or anything like that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think he's too good at football. I don't think he'll give it up for baseball. I think maybe once he retires from football, he might start going down that route. But I don't think he'll give up football just yet.
Okay.
I don't think there's too much to worry about.
I don't think there's any worry of that.
Okay.
The paycheck's too good right now.
Okay. Okay, y'all. Not feeling him for like a kind of Jordan move, man, and
no.
Okay. All right. Now, just to finish this off, we talk about Michael Bennett. Just thoughts on this trade with him going to the Eagles.
The rich get richer. I mean, Philly's defense was, especially the pass rush, was pretty solid this past season. But now they're going to have an elite edge rusher coming in there to go on the opposite side of what they have. And, I mean, it's just crazy to look at a team like this that has 2 MVP quarterbacks, 1 regular season type with Carson Wentz. I mean, he didn't actually win it because he got injured, but
yeah,
he was pretty much
the favorite,
unanimous favorite to win the award before he got hurt. And then Nick Foles, his backup, goes and wins it, the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP. And then that defense, like I said, was solid. And to add Michael Bennett, it's just, like I said, the rich get richer. And being a Cowboys fan, I am pissed.
What are your thoughts on it, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree the rich get richer, but I think it shows that, Philly's got no plan of slowing down. They're going full speed, and they want to win again.
All right, guys, that pretty much touches it for the NFL. Is there anything else you guys like to add before we close it?
No.
This time next week, we should be getting ready for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So Darnell's taking his 2 days off of work, and
yes, sir.
Should be fun.
Yeah. So it's a really fun time, man. I picked up on it last year. I'm really expecting some good basketball again this year, man. Just gonna be good for sure. So definitely gonna check it out. But all right, guys, as always, I appreciate y'all tuning into the show. You can check this podcast out on SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes. Just hit us up in that search engine, Don't Kill the Messengers Podcast, and we should pop up. Also, feel free to follow us on Twitter at DKM_cast. Be pretty awesome to hear from you guys on there as well. But we'll catch you guys next week. We're going to talk a lot about some NCAA basketball for sure with March Madness tournament getting ready to start up. So check us out next week. And we'll catch y'all next episode. Peace.